So again, well, there are concerns being raised about the dropout rate in Gauteng schools. The DA issuing a statement earlier about questions it has fired to the MEC in Gauteng, Matume Chilwan, whom I just interviewed a short while ago. So let's unpack this loss of pupils further now. I'm joined by education activist Hendrick Makaneta. Hendrick, good afternoon. Welcome to Today on eNCA. I just spoke to the MEC, Matume Chilwane. He says that we have to look at the context when you think of these numbers of people who don't finish matric. He says they've got 86% retention for grades 1 to grade 9, and they do have mechanisms to trace the missing or the dropouts. What's your experience?
Well, to be quite honest, Dan, it appears that the department does not have effective mechanisms to track learners who drop out of the system. Perhaps to give credit to what the MEC has just said in terms of the more than 80% retention rate until grade 9. I think that it is true that the majority of learners who drop out are found in the grade 10 level. That is the FET phase. That is where the challenge is. And I think that, it is quite difficult for government to find out or to know where these learners are, in the sense that by the time they reach a matric, only almost 55% of those who registered in grade 1 are able to write their national senior certificate exams. And for us as activists in the terrain, that is a cause for great concern.
Yeah, I guess that concern will be shared by many people, especially in the education sector, but we should be worried as well because we don't want to lose children at all during their formative education years. On the ground, what are you finding out, Hendrick? Why after grade 9 we have such a big drop in numbers?
Then you will remember that, learners in the senior phase, for example, if I have to give in terms of their studies, they begin to choose, a wide range of streams when they go into grade 10. But of course, there are many challenges. Amongst others, you also have teenage pregnancy, which affect in the main the grade that I've spoken about. But of course, you also have, those challenges of those who cannot pursue whatever, stream that they may find effective. I think that the issues are wide-ranging. Issues of child-headed families, which also affect, senior grades, such as grade 10, where you find that, learners have to opt, some of them opt to get employment instead of carrying on with their studies. Yeah. There are just too many problems in that grade.
There are too many factors that come into play, and then it gives a very complex picture. But how can it be avoided to give confidence and support the pupils beyond grade 9 to say, you know what, stick it out, keep on keeping on until matric?
I think then the problem is dire in the public education schools as compared to private schools. And the issue of parental involvement is quite a problematic area when you look at public schools, because you don't find a lot of parents who are actively involved. But I think that perhaps we must also applaud government for coming up with the basic education laws amendments bill, which will look at ways of ensuring that within 3 days, if the child is not at school, schools will be forced, to communicate, promptly with parents who appear in the system. And as I said, this type of engagement does not happen a lot in the education space, particularly in public schools your township schools as well as schools in the rural areas. And so if you make it a law, once the president has acceded and signed this bill, it then becomes law. Then principals will have to be held accountable for not actively following up on learners who are not at school, and so there are time frames. But at the same time, I think, the bill will seek to also make it compulsory for, learners also in the foundation phase to be at school if a learner is not at school. Because remember, this dropout rate does not, it's not only at grade 10 only. It's throughout the system.
Yeah.
So
and that needs to
parents
be,
who keep learners at home.
And that needs to be monitored. That needs to be monitored. And parents have a role.
A role to play.
Yeah,
for example, a parent can face a maximum of up to 12 months in prison if they cannot explain why the child is kept at home. So
thanks, Hendrick.
The bill actually will address. Will address some of these problems.
We'll wait what happens when that bill comes through. Thank you very much, Hendrick Makaneta, education activist, just weighing in there on the shocking numbers of dropouts in Gauteng schools. I mean, learners just disappearing in that system, and there's different kinds of numbers and context. It's a complex picture, but it needs to be attended to.